Professor Black Ops, how's everybody doing tonight? You see my guy on the screen, one of the original pioneers in the tech boom. Probably we're going back to the early '90s, late '80s. Man, Oracle was killing it, still killing the game. Kind of kind of made a late switch to the cloud. So we'll see what's going on, and we'll go ahead and roll in there while people are rolling in. Oof, man, I am dragging. So once again, I always joke. I say Larry Ellison was Elon Musk before Elon Musk. But yeah, we definitely gonna delve into some of the history. Still one of the top databases after. Oh my God, I think Oracle 6 came out in the '80s. So yeah, been in the game a long time. What's up, casual economist? Yeah, I'm trying to do 10 on Tuesday. I think I'm gonna have to change that time. I feel it's late for me. Not too late, but I'm usually winding it down. So glad you could join me. Let me know if you got any cybersecurity tech questions. Just drop them in the box. We about to get started. I'm gonna let a few people join in. Man, this year is just flying by, and I just cannot get it together, man. I cannot get caught up on general things, but can't complain though. What's up, JM? Do most of the tech CEOs have big labs at their mansions like Tony Stark? I don't think so. I think they mostly have stock machines. They try to keep eye on their stock price. The only one, Elon Musk might, even Bill Gates. I take that back. Bill Gates has a super technical mansion. I think Steve Ballmer, that's probably who I do next from Microsoft. Most people don't even know who Steve Ballmer is, but yeah. What it do, Wayne Hill? Glad you could join us. We're about to get started. Like I said, I'm running out of gas. I might need to start these a little earlier. I just thought this was a good dead spot. Monday Night Football, Tuesday's pretty open. All the big YouTubers are sleeping. So I'm glad y'all could join me. So, but yeah, one of my favorites, guys. Long story short, I got, and I should have put it in the slide. I got certified in Oracle in 1995. I went to Oracle class in Bethesda, Virginia. So I went to Bethesda, out to Oracle Training Center. Oracle's huge in the federal space, huge in government. So that's actually really how I got started. But I actually was working for a small model airplane company when I got in Oracle. Was where they moved from Virginia to Indiana. So I was helping them move, and they sent me to Oracle class, and that kind of launched my career. So Oracle was so hot. So I programmed for 10 years and was a DBA for 2 or 3. Then I went on and started doing government work after that. I did a couple small private things, but then I actually went on and got in that government life. And as a consultant, I'm still in, doing that government work. Those government reviews and state reviews are still hot. So let's go and get started while everybody else fall in. Shout out to that's me. I'm great. Shout out to somebody else. I'm like, oh, that's me. Yeah, I'm so tired. Yep, that's me. Welcoming everybody. Shout out to Casual Economists. Shout out to JM. Yeah, I think I take that back, JM. I think people come and set up, but Bill Gates had this kind of like close to Tony Stark's. He wasn't building stuff, but his stuff for like he had like digital paintings in like the 90s where they were switched to different stuff. I think he had a wristwatch that would open up doors and track him through the his mansion. So I might do the Microsoft guys yet. I might do the new one, Nordelli, the new CEO, the Indian guy. He's top notch. A lot of people aren't hip to him, but let's go and get at it. Two is Oracle kind of winding down. They're kind of taking the backseat to the new guns, but they were because in the '90s was Microsoft, IBM, Oracle. Of course, Apple was always in the consumer, but they kind of like ran the gamut for a while. Kind of like the Fang. They were Fang before the Fang. They were Oracle was running it. So Larry Ellison, super eccentric, super arrogant. Once again, I was calling the Elon Musk before Elon Musk. So let's get in once again. Put any questions in the chat. We get to them. Tech or cybersecurity. And we get at it. Let's see how many know Steve Wozniak. That's all. But yeah, shout out to Steve. He was signing somebody. Somebody had an Apple II motherboard. They showed him signing. He had a big grin on his face. So now shout out to Wozniak, man. That guy's still around, worth a ton of money. I wish Steve Jobs would have took care of himself, man, with his cancer and stuff. But nah, shout out to them because they were definitely the kick off the consumer end of that. Making he's a different cat, man. Larry Ellison, he was still super arrogant. Just that guy, man. Just made that big investment. So let's get into it, man. So once again, I got Oracle certified in 1995. I was doing Oracle forms and reports, which is kind of their front end language. Then PL SQL was their database report, and most big companies were running on Oracle and Sun Solaris. That was which Oracle ended up buying lately. But those were the two things that kind of went together. Because if you were running an enterprise database, and if you wasn't running on a mainframe, you were going to run it on Oracle. Then DB2 came off the mainframe and kind of went into the mini computers. But then a couple other ones, and I got them in there, came out. But Oracle, they were kind of like Amazon. They got a 10-year run on big databases that didn't run on a mainframe. So let's see what my man Wayne got going on. I forgot about that. You are correct about that. I did forget about that. So currently, I looked up this 22. Larry Ellison, the ninth richest individual in the United States. I'm just talking about the United States. That's still killing it. Net worth 105.8 billion. I saw 88 billion. The crazy, he's been making his salary for like 30 years, 75 million. The heydays of Oracle, I think one year he got like 150 million. We talking about stock options and everything. Salute, Helmet. Glad you can join. But when you're making that type of bread, you live large. So his base, his salary without, stock options and everything, 75 million. I should have looked it up. He's been making that for like 30 years. He was making 70 million like in the 80s, man. So he's been making that big bread for a long time. Entrepreneur and investor. So 100. I don't know. Everybody put a one in the chat. Who would still be working if you had 105 billion? I would be investing, but he goes to work. He goes in the office when he's not selling his ship, right? He does those selling, but he goes to the office and still, I want to say he's chairman of the board. So he still puts in a lot of hours. I don't even know if I'd be chairman of the board anymore, man. Who still be working? Put a one in the chat if you worth 105 billion, you still be working. I take 10% of the net worth. I don't need the net worth, man. I just need the salary, man. He can make 75 million a year. I just need a little of the salary, man. Larry been a big baller, right? Well, because I enjoy the work. It's mine. I feel you, Wayne. I probably still would be working. I don't know. I probably go help kids or something, be programming or something, Wayne. I don't. Guess you still want to do something just to keep score. He does sell a lot. He got I wouldn't work for it. Shout out to casual economists. No, I feel like that's a lot. 105.8 billion and 75 million in salary. So how he came up with the company is his epiphany came from an early research paper on relational database by Ted Codd, an IBM scientist. Big Blue saw scant commercial potential in Codd's idea about a structured query language, right? That's SQL. But Ellison saw plenty, and he joined up with Bob Miner and Ed Oates, with whom he had worked with at Apex, and developed the SQL relational database management system. So if I'm old, so when you did original computer science, you had to read COD. COD was kind of like the the father relational database because he wrote this scientific paper. The cool thing, Larry Ellison took it and was like, let's make it a database. IBM was dominating in mainframe. They thought it was a toy because they were killing it with the big mainframe database. So they never thought somebody would run a SQL database on something smaller, right? Like once again, it was those proprietary Unix. I think we were in Solaris for a long time at DoD. The first commercial suite of SQL products was called Oracle 2 after a CIA contract codenamed it Oracle that the three had worked on together, which was released in 1979. Oh, let me take that down. It was released in 1979. Probably shout out to the charity work. And that's cool. PBO came in the game probably, I was graduating college in 90. So I think I got Oracle certified like 5 years later in 95. But the first couple releases from Oracle was a little shaky, but they kept working on it. And I think around 7. And once again, Erica published The Revolution. That's the name of the paper, Relational Model of Data Large Shared Data Banks, 1970. It was a relational database management system. It was completely changed the landscape of database system. The paper particularly inspired a young software engineer, Larry Ellison, current the CTO of Oracle Corporation. He later created the world's first commercial available RDS system, Oracle, in 1979. Oracle remained the leading company RDS for systems dominated by Unix and Linux. Over the last 41 years, Oracle has evolved from time and contributed to the RDBMS and overall database system. His later release is 21C, and the C is for cloud, right? So I still do a little Oracle database work, right? I actually missed that coding. I love coding, like my first love, but he's been he wrote the paper in 70. He created the paper in 79. And I think I think Oracle still ranked the 7th most sold databases and still among big companies. I think it was 3. So it's still out there, still making money. Still, of course, they moved everything to the cloud, right? So you can't buy experience, and young people need access to that link. Facts. So yeah, so that's true. People doing NoSQL now, Helmet. we done moved from SQL to NoSQL now. People using NoSQL more than SQL now. So let me know. I'll drop that link in the chat if you want it for the relational database. There's so many and I might do a video on that. Facebook got so big they ended up creating their own NoSQL Cassandra. They did theirs off of a paper because SQL with foreign keys were taking too long because you got to validate everything. So they created a NoSQL called Cassandra just to do their messages in their email inside of Facebook. So it's weird because I took a database class, but I never thought about creating my own database, right? Using databases, different techniques, different times, even back then. There's file system day, but I just never thought about creating my own database though. So Oracle flourished for the rest of the decade. That's when I came in, Oracle 7.5 to be exact. Success with banks, airlines, and car makers and retailers. Ellison vision being among first to provide an internet-ready business application gave companies an advantage in the soft wars against Informex and Sybase. Those were 2 of them, but Oracle had a 10-year lead by the time Informix and Sybase came out. Till the rest of Microsoft SQL Server came out in the late 1990s. You got to think he created his paper in 79, and SQL Server didn't come out to 1990s. And IBM acquisition of Informix in 2001 triggered a new 3-way fight. But hell, he had a 20-year head start. So sometimes when you do something unique and you jump out there, right? And he knew from his research and doing consulting work that the government was lacking, especially the CIA and they were lacking a database to handle all their particular data elements. So being the first to market, Oracle was able to grow very quickly, even by today's standards. The RDBMS was really much faster, more scalable than anything else on the market. They ramped up to 55 million annually in revenue by 1986 when they went public. Oracle. This was the same year both Sun Microsoft and Microsoft went public, which was, as it turned out, was quite the foreshadowing of future competition and acquisition. Yeah, Oracle, Larry Ellison and Bill Gates used to go at it in the 80s and 90s, man. They used to go at it in the paper, man. Bill Gates kind of nerdy, but super smart. Larry Ellison was always cool, and I always feel like he was bullying Bill Gates. Shout out to Bill Gates, but he was making 55 million annually for like 15 years before anybody came out with a database. I remember hearing about Oracle facing a lawsuit due to the amount of data they had. Oh, facts. Yeah, Oracle had a ton, man. Still do. Not as much as the big dogs, but they still got a ton. They still run that government game tight, though. But once again, they were making that 55 million annually, like I said, dominated. And back then, a database was the thing. Now we're in the cloud, we got distributed. Now a lot of people let the middle tier do the work. Back then, everything went in the database. The database was kind of like the center of everything. Now we got so many databases, so many cache memory, NoSQL, data everywhere, data on the file system. Back then, the database was the center of everything. In the late 19, it began to give Oracle a run for its money, but after fighting off Informix in the early decade, Oracle was prepared for the next battle. They continued iterating over the original database. At one point, according to some estimates, they own 40% of a market share for databases, and we talking about the big dogs, right? And Oracle went from 960 million in 1990 to 10 billion in 2000. That's when I really was writing a lot of Oracle code. The government was just, I was at DoD. No, I think I was at DoD 4, but yeah, Oracle dominated the market. It was good for more than 10x growth over that 10-year period. So you went from 960 million, you talking about 10 billion in 2000, right? That's killing it, right? So Larry Ellison been in the game forever, right? And once again, the database is always, for me, I always loved databases and grinding and getting in there. So that's always it. So I wanted to reminisce. I think Hillman asked me to do Larry Ellison, so I always want to reminisce once again, as that was my first back. I think this was done in 2016. Oracle still had over 130,000 people worldwide, 65% of whom are outside the US, and does 40 billion in revenue. They took their early lead in relational database and used it to wedge into broader enterprise markets, expanding into adjacent ERP through strategic time acquisition. They bought NetSuite in 2016 for 13.7 billion. Profits last year, they were sitting on 30 billion in cash in 2016, and at the writing, they were worth over 260 billion. How you sitting on 30 billion in cash? So they could actually buy companies. That's why a lot of old companies want to get into new markets. They just buy it. Like if you look at Microsoft, Google, they just be buying companies, man. I think Oracle made 30 acquisitions, because I know when I 5 years I was a DoD, they bought 30 different companies. I remember I installed a web server. They had 3 web servers. If you looked at the config files, you saw a web server. You saw Web Center, then you saw their web server, and they had some open source Apache in there. So they just bought 3 web servers and they were stitching them together and make them better. Is NoSQL Graph? Yep. It could be Graph, it could be Document. So there's like 3 forms of NoSQL, Wayne. Graph is definitely one. Oracle, actually, you can graph inside Oracle. They created so much stuff. I did most of my graph in Oracle, but now I think Neo4j is Graph, which is open source. Yep, they definitely purchased MySQL, and they put a lot of enterprise stuff in MySQL. Shout out to them. They actually just came out with a super quick version of it. I was going to try it. Document and was one, and Blob was another type of NoSQL one. So there's like 3 or 4 flavors of that. But yeah, I think this 2016 they was sitting on 30 billion in cash. I like saying that with a big B. That's a lot of cash. So this is them just growing over the years from 2017 to 2020. At the top, you see they got their cloud services and licenses support. I'm sorry, yeah, cloud service and license. Light green is cloud license and on-prem licenses, then hardware and services. So they trying to get out of on-prem licensing, get everything in the cloud, right? Because you want that subscription. So they pushing everything to the cloud and they're giving you nice discounts. And AWS, even though we're going to talk about, they ran an Oracle for years for their enterprise stuff at AWS. They finally migrated off, but you can still, when you spin up an RDS, you can spin up Oracle. So everybody know I do AWS Sunday. I probably spin up just an Oracle instance in AWS and just kind of walk through some SQL statements and probably insert off a S3 bucket, insert it into some databases. So that's what I'm gonna shoot for. I said that I ain't even started on my lab. I got to get it together. Yeah. Let's see what Wayne said. I use SQL and filtering data by using graph. Is not no true. No, that's the way to go. In my lab last week, I was using it's called AWS config, and you can take config files, put them inside AWS. And I was actually running SQL statements off of the config files, and I could say this EC2 was running this, had this group, firewall group associated with this EC2. So you can kind of see what's matched. So now I've been doing SQL for like 30 years, Way. I love SQL. Shout out to SQL. But so this is one thing a lot of people, Larry Ellison actually got the cloud wrong. I might play some of him talking about it. He thought the cloud was a toy. He thought cloud was for research. He didn't think it would ever take off. So he was actually downplaying AWS, and I might pay a little bit of it. He tried to frame cloud as lacking any product innovation. He called cloud water vapor. It's not new. Everything clouds is nonsense. It's computer with memory. He then clarified, unlike the hyper swamp of cloud computing, Oracle has real products and innovation, engineering chops to create innovative features. We mischaracterize and sales and marketing company. This is a rock solid company, factual talking. CEO been the helm. So we probably listened to a little bit of him downplaying the cloud. He missed it, right? So he didn't think it was serious. He downplayed it. He didn't think it was a viable solution. I mean, because you got to think, and most large companies miss stuff when you bring in something new or something different, right? He didn't take it seriously. So let's see, play a little bit of that. But yeah, loved Oracle, still loves Oracle to this day. One of the cool things. This was 2009. That's how this was, right? Larry Ellison. It says Oracle CEO Larry Ellis bashes cloud computing hype, right? So he missed it, right? But cool thing is, like we talked about, when you got 30 billion in cash, he made a U-turn. We're gonna look at some of Oracle cloud and where they're at on the quadrant, right? So we're gonna look at their future and where they're at. They're innovating. You can hear the video. I'll back it up. Still no audio? Still no audio? Hmm. That's weird. I wonder. That's weird because I can hear it. That's weird. Let me pump it up like extremely. Let me try that again. Let's back it up. That is weird. I got it like on 100. Let me try. Now, you can hear me, but not that. Let me try. I'm gonna get my mic out a little closer. Man, I can hear it clear as day. Let me turn this a little bit more. Now, can you hear it now? Hmm. Let me try something. That's weird. But you can hear me? That is so weird. Let me try. Let me try this. Let me try one more thing and we'll see. I might have to summarize. Let me see. What about? Can you hear it now? Can you hear it now? Let me figure out what's going on with that. You can hear me though? That is so weird. Gotta figure. Let me figure that out. I don't know. Let me figure that out. Can you hear me though? Hmm. Hmm. Let me try that. Okay. That is weird because I just let it play out my speakers, my regular speakers. So it's weird. I'm talking, but it's blaring in my ear. So that's let me think a minute. Let me go to the rest of these slides while I think on that a little bit. That is so weird. Hmm. But yeah, he was bashing it. So Larry missed the cloud. I gotta figure out. So if you look at them on the quadrant, that's Oracle right there. So you got the leaders at the top. We know the big three: Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Alibaba, then Oracle down here, niche players, right? So Oracle's creeping up. I think Alibaba is going to jump over there, and I think Oracle's probably going to creep up over there too. I think Rackspace is probably going to creep over there too. Of course, Salesforce. That's weird. They're not even. This is 2020 slide. You'd think Salesforce would be in one of these squadrons, but I think Salesforce probably actually going to creep over there. Then Oracle's probably going to follow, right? So this is the quadrant, right? You got your challengers up there, leaders there, niche players. So those are it right there. Once again, Oracle created software as a service. They did an autonomous database, and it does infrastructure too. But most companies I know, they were actually using Oracle's database in the cloud, subscription. They actually managed it, everything for you. So the question is, do you need DBAs, right? So, or a version of DBAs. I think you need DBAs. I think you need less DBAs, right? So once again, Oracle's moving its on-prem customers to the cloud and also finding a nice audience because they bought so many customers. Like they bought NetSuite, Oracle. They bought a couple construction software. They bought all this software companies for using it, and then they just put them subscription in the cloud. And we'll look at, I got a few of those that we're going to look at too. Oracle does infrastructure, Oracle does platform, Oracle does databases, which is increasingly autonomous. Despite the infrastructure as software and platform footprint, Oracle's mostly a software provider when it comes to the cloud. With the addition of NetSuite, the company can cover mid, small, and large enterprises. In 2020, as an afterthought in infrastructure, it had an eventful second half of the year. Oracle landed Zoom as a customer, right? You always need some reference customers. Oracle bought Zoom and TikTok, all right? So TikTok was getting beat up by the United States government. So they put their infrastructure in there, but there's still backups going over back to there. So Oracle's getting that, winning that reference contract and bringing all of TikTok's infrastructure to the United States, right? Because they thought that foreign nation was listening to people's information and scraping it, right? So here, I think this was from 2022. Oracle at 16.5% of the database market. I think made it eighth. At the top, like my man said, they bought my sequel, right? Oracle bought my sequel. I actually forgot to wait, bro. So they own both of those, right? Then you got Postgres. I'm a huge Postgres fan. I like to write packages and procedures, and you don't really do that a lot with MySQL. You usually just run create, update, and delete statements in MySQL. Postgres, you can do more packages and procedures. Um, for some reason, I still write packages and procedures. And right there, Microsoft took a huge chunk coming in at 33%. The reason MySQL was at the top originally is they were open source and they were free and they wouldn't charge a lot. You could run a pretty big database before you had to charge. And I think Oracle's still pretty good with that. The problem is for them is hardware is so much quicker and faster that you can still run open source MySQL. Unless you're a big company, you can probably run your whole company on MySQL. So um, I gotta figure out what's going on with that. I can shout out to Wayne 2021. They bought current too. They bought a lot of stuff. And we're gonna look at I got a slide and we'll go out there to show a lot of the stuff they bought. They were because you got cash burning. They were just burning cash back there. When you got 30 billion in cash, Wayne, you can buy stuff. I never got into MySQL. I mean Postgres. Yeah, like I said, I got Postgres. I never thought MySQL had stored procedure. I think they added some, but that's one reason I went to Postgres. Postgres actually took a lot of the best things that Oracle did. I just tried it, made it cheaper and made it open source, right? So a lot of things I wrote in PL SQL, you can write in, they call it PGL SQL inside Postgres. So a lot of stuff naturally converted. And a lot of things I could do, not a lot of the advanced things, but a lot of the basic stuff I could do in Oracle. I could just really port that over to the to Postgres. So I was helping some guys do some tuning in Africa one year. I used to do side work, so it was in Postgres. So most of the stuff I did in Oracle, we were tuning their Postgres. So that made it interesting. Like I said, most of that stuff transfers over. Because once again, my man took the base SQL paper, and a lot of those SQL statements are the same across databases, right? Salesforce. People don't realize Mark Benioff, who was the CEO of Salesforce, used to work for Larry at Oracle, right? So Mark Benioff, the co-founder, CEO of Salesforce, once worked for Larry Ellison, Oracle's co-founder, chairman, and chief technology officer. Benioff also called Larry Ellison his mentor. Ellison invested $2 million in Salesforce and became an inaugural board member. Salesforce, whose cloud software could help corporate salespeople stay on top of their leads, managers stay more valuable than ongoing for its long-standing competitor Oracle. Salesforce market capitalized now stands at 180 billion, and Oracle's 174 billion. So far this year, Salesforce shares increased 23%, Oracle risen 9%. So the crazy part about that is Oracle invested in Salesforce, and Salesforce got bigger. So it'd be interesting to see what Larry Ellison's shares are worth in Salesforce, right? I heard that PostgreSQL was SQL compliant in comparison to MySQL. Yeah, MySQL is pretty SQL compliant. Oracle kind of puts their flavor on their SQL, but yeah, what they do, they say it's standard SQL. Then they give you extensions on their product to say why their SQL is better. Like I said, so anti SQL is from the paper. I usually do Oracle SQL, which is a little different with syntaxes like pluses and outer joins. Where anti SQL, you say inner and outer join in there. Oracle, you just put plus on one side and do it. Like I said, I've done it so long. Sometimes I get confused when I do anti SQL because I just done Oracle SQL, like I said, forever. But once again, Salesforce is bigger than Oracle now, 180 billion to 174. Larry Ellison invested $2 million in initial Salesforce. So now they be going back and forth, so it's funny. So the crazy part about it, Salesforce ran on Oracle for years. I'm interviewing a guy from Salesforce. He's the I think the regional manager in the Midwest. So he's gonna come on the show and we're gonna talk about Salesforce still runs on top of a ton of Oracle databases. Because when you do that WYSIWYG stuff and you doing those sales funnels, that used to run in the Oracle database. That's one reason Larry invested into it, because they were using all of Oracle's hardware underneath. So that's their market cap. I should look up and see how much Larry owns on both of them. But when you worth that, 180 billion. The crazy thing is Amazon's original business ran on Oracle for a decade. Once again, when you scale that big and you doing all those packages, the only database at first could handle that was Oracle, unless you're gonna run it on the mainframe. So Larry Ellison used to tease Amazon and say they would never get rid of Oracle. They finally got rid of Oracle. So we're going to talk about that. Amazon migration complete. Amazon Computer Businesses just turned off its final Oracle. I think it was last year. 17 years at Amazon, I have seen that my colleagues on the engineering team has never been content to leave good enough alone. They routine reevaluated every internal system to make sure it's scalable, efficient, performant, and secure as possible. When they find avenue to improve it, they will use what they learned, thoroughly modernize our architecture, implementation, and often go so far as to rip apart existing systems to rebuild them from the ground up if necessary. So they believe that legacy of Oracle was just not modern enough. They couldn't scale it quick enough, and it wasn't agile enough to do business how Amazon wants to do business in the future. So, and two is Amazon created their own version of MySQL and Postgres to make it be optimal for the cloud. So I think they said their MySQL runs 5 times faster than Oracle versions of MySQL, because you could take the code and they call it fork it, so they enhance it to run for the cloud. So Amazon Aurora. You can run Amazon DBS, so they will have Amazon Aurora, which is specially built for the cloud. It runs 5 times faster than the generic MySQL. So this is some of the migration patterns. They're happy to report that the data migration is now complete. Amazon Consumer Businesses just turned off its final Oracle database. Some third-party applications are tightly bound to Oracle and were not migrated. So obviously they got a few things left. So this shows you all their databases. But depending on what they need, they can have a relational database. Like my man Wayne said, NoSQL could be a document, graph, or key value. So I know those three are NoSQL. Document, graph, and key value is NoSQL. In memory, if you need some pure speed and it's going to be short, like we do lookup tables and high calculations in pure memory, then there is your standard data warehouse. So you can figure out what you ordered for the last 10 years in Amazon, it'll be in their data warehouse, right? Which probably will be in their Redshift is their data warehouse. So, and that's the cool thing and the bad thing about Amazon is, once again, they compete with everybody. So they built their own databases, their own infrastructure. So they're like, Oracle, yeah, we don't need you anymore, right? But you can still lease out an Oracle RDS, they're managing for you. You get the schema, and they charge you per hour for what you use and how much data they put in there. So they said they migrated 75 petabytes of internal data storage. They had 7,500 Oracle databases to run multiple AWS services, including Amazon DynamoDB, Aurora, Relational Database, and Redshift. They had 7,500 databases. I just can't even comprehend, because you can put big data in Oracle. We had like 1 billion rows at DoD, so I can't imagine having 7,500 Oracle databases. The migration was accomplished with little or no downtime. They covered 100% of their proprietary system, including complex purchasing, catalog management, order fulfillment, accounting, video streaming. We kept careful track of cost and performance and realized the following results. The cost reduction, they reduced their database cost by over 60% on the top of the heavily discounted rate they negotiate and scale. Customer regularly report cost savings of 90% by switching from Oracle to AWS. Performance improvement, latency, consumer-facing reports were reduced by 40%. Administrative overhead, switching to a managed service, reduced database admin overhead by 70%. So that's one thing I do like about Amazon. They eat their own dog food when they talk about using Amazon RDS. You sit up there DynamoDB for their NoSQL, Amazon Redshift for their data warehouse. Since they're using them, and if they can get it to work for them, you know it easily work for you. There's very few companies on the planet that's bigger than Amazon, especially during Christmas and Prime Day. They were moving a crazy amount of products. So you know, if their stuff will work for them, it'll definitely work for you. So once again, shout out to Amazon, got rid of their Oracle. So what I was going to try to do is get my Oracle skills back up and start using some of their product. I did a video with me using Amazon DynamoDB, which was NoSQL. Was a little different than I'm used to. I probably use Amazon RDS with Oracle this weekend and a lot, just trying to keep my skills up. And two is, from a security perspective, most of the vendors are moving to AWS or Azure, so you need to know how to secure these databases, encryption at rest, encryption at transit. Make sure you're not vulnerable to command injection or SQL injection when you're connecting to the database on the back end. So you need to understand that as a security professional. And from an IT professional, everything gets saved in a database in the end, right? So you need to figure out which tool in your tool belt. Is it RDS? Is it NoSQL? Is it Amazon Aurora? Amazon Redshift? They actually have it's called Quantum Ledger. They actually have a Bitcoin database if you want to do a smart contract. Shout out to AI and ME. Hopefully we get together and try to do a smart contract. Use Oracle Quantum Ledger, which is kind of their technology for Bitcoin and that technology underneath. So they give you a lot of things to practice on and work on your skills with. So these are some of the things, like my man said, about in May 6, 2020. They bought AdSense, which is work management, Venera, which is NetSuite. My man says Cerner. I think Helmet says Cerner right there, which I never heard of it. It's a NetSuite health information. They spent 28 billion for it. It looks like 28 billion. Then food, crowd twist, oxygen systems. So they buy a lot of custom packages. So instead of you installing them online, you would just use it from the cloud and they give you a subscription, right? So they get all that traffic to their network. Then it's easier. Everybody wants to go to cloud because then you don't have to administrate it. They take care of the servers, disks, new disks, doing upgrades, right? So all that works. So they bought, like I said, I know 200 or 300 companies over the last 10 years, right? So that's how you stay relevant, right? If you can't make it, just buy it. And two is when you buy it, right? They got your infrastructure. Then they get your sales team. Oracle has probably 10,000 salesmen spread around the globe that can help you scale your product and sell, right? So that's why a lot of people like to sell or once again, he had it in 77. Just talked about him going public in 1987. Here it says Oracle 7 database. Back then, Larry Ellison owned 35% stake in Oracle, and it has a market cap of 200 billion. So that's why he was worth 100 and I think it was 105 billion when you own 35% stake in a public company, right? Your wealth is going to be up there, right? So Larry Ellison late investment was with Elon Musk, not comes as a surprise since he's been connected to Musk through Tesla since 2018. He owns more than 15 million shares. Ellison is the second largest individual shareholder of electric vehicle company behind Elon Musk itself. He bought the shares for an undisclosed amount in 2018. He joined the board. Ellison's Tesla stakes accounts for 12% of his fortune, right? So we always talk about ownership, controlling stock, and getting stock options, right? He just bought the stock. So shout out to Larry Ellison. He getting up there. And of course, he bought NetSuite as part of their Oracle ERP. It went public in 2007. Oracle acquired NetSuite in 2016 for $19.3 billion. That purchase alone added $700 million to Ellison's growing fortune. He already held 41.3% stake in the cloud company at the time of the deal, right? So once again, Larry Ellison has been a player in the game. He's been just making it happen and just been in it forever. So, and he owns, and I just put that in there. He owns $1 billion in real estate. So I just thought that was interesting. Let's look at it. I was looking at it on Fortune. That's a crazy amount of real estate. So that's some of his real estate. Let's go through it. Larry Ellison owns a 1 billion real estate portfolio. We always talk about getting into the real estate game. That's a crazy amount. But when your net worth is that, what is it? So that's him. Let's see his first property, Netport, Rhode Island. It was constructed in 1951. He bought it for 10.5 million. He spent more than 100 million to convert it into a museum. So he spent $100 million on his house to convert it into a museum. I guess when you got it, you got it. Got his Lake Tahoe. So one of his homes here for more than 20 million. He featured 2 piers and 6 bedrooms. That actually looks like a hotel. So I guess he bought it, went defunct. So I guess he gonna turn it into his house. Lanai, I think that's Hawaii, right? Larry bought yep. Larry Ellison portion of this 141 square mile oasis included a 3,000 a night spa called Sense and Retreat, outpost. So he bought part of this island. One resort boasts a world-class golf course where Bill Gates got married on the 12th hole. All told, Larry Ellison sunk off roughly $500 million into his Lanai investment. That's a crazy amount. Carbon Beach shoreline bought his 10th home for $48 million in 2017. It was 7,700 square feet, includes a tennis court and a pool right by the ocean. Talking about the coast of Cali. Man, that's crazy money. This was inspired by Japanese. He got 23 acres and an 8,000 square feet house. He sunk more than 200 million to upgrade this property. It starts there as an art museum that basically he converted into a house. I remember seeing this on CNBC. So that's it. It's Larry in the 80s was real big in the Japanese structure. So he bought this whole I'm gonna call it a compound. So you can see the walls of the whole compound. He's got 10,000 square feet house, 5 bedrooms in San Francisco. Paid $20 million for it. Look like it's boarded up right there. They're on top of each other. Or is that one house? I think that's one house. I'll take that back. He bought another and converted 246 acres, massive estate, 6-star resort for the ultra rich. He bought it for $43 million in 2011. Includes an amphitheater and an 18-hole golf course, 18,430 square foot house. Larry doesn't play golf, so got his Palm Beach. Then it shows Palm Beach. He spent $17.5 million. So once again, Larry Ellison's in the game. He's buying companies. Oracle's still relevant. We saw them on the niche part of the cloud. So once again, I'm put any questions in there. I just Helmet put it in there, but for me, it just makes me reminisce. And that was really my my first bag getting into enterprise computing was Oracle database. I went to Bethesda, Maryland for training. I got Oracle certified from programming and DBA work, and I did that for 10 years. And when I was at DOD doing Oracle and web programming, that's where I got in security. So that kind of ushered me into the game. So shout out to them. And that's what I tell everybody. If you find the right niche, it can just take you, boost your career up, get you an enterprise architect. Now I believe that would be the cloud. You taking a paper would probably be blockchain. Shout out to AI and me, engineering cannabis. Take a blockchain, get the blockchain paper right. That's the future. That's kind of on the ground floor. People still trying to figure that out. Let's see. Can you live and eat very well? Oh shit. Oh yeah, JM. I've been in a 6-figure game for a decade just off of Oracle, JM, and I'm fat. So yes, the tech field. You just got to find your sweet spot. Now that'll be cloud. We talked about it. I sent I wouldn't call it short. I did a interview and I spiced it up and put it on YouTube. It asked me what 3 fields are the top. Of course, I said security, what you need, cloud, then artificial intelligence and machine learning. Any one of those 3, if you put those 3 together, all right. So I usually do cybersecurity in the cloud, right? Security architecture, security engineer in the cloud, right? So you can definitely, kill it. Like I said, I just been blessed and just kind of fell into it. So, do you feel like it was a downgrade when you went from programming to cybersecurity professor? No, it's weird. Actually, it's an upgrade. I think programmers do more, but the tech industry kind of puts cybersecurity on a pedestal with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I think cybersecurity, most companies treat programmers bad, man, unless you work for FANG, right? So if you, it's like programmer, system analyst, project manager, then you put cybersecurity on top of that. Then you got DBAs and architecture. So really, JM, unless you're working at the FANG, most companies put programmers kind of at the middle, right? In the tech game, you kind of a little lower, but now cybersecurity, right? They put it at the top. Shout out to my man before the billions. Definitely engineering the game. I'm in Azure VM right now. Got rid of that. But yeah, that's the way to go, him. As long as it don't price you out the game, I think you need that cloud experience, spinning up those VMs in the cloud. Like I said, I'm about to spin up a 3-tier architecture across 3 data centers in Ohio. AMs. Shout out to my man. I was just talking about him. So now, Jam. So really, programming. Then at the top is cybersecurity. Shout out to my man. He's here. Smart. Yep. Utilize. So at the top now, I think you would put artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, and cybersecurity, right? Then in there, of course, you got architecture and data engineering in each one of those domains. Hey, Miss Creative, I'm glad you make it. But like I said, I was reminiscing because my first bag was Oracle. That's when databases was new. People were coming off the mainframe. So we were running HP Superdome and Solaris. Red Hat wasn't even thought of. Red Hat was just a hobby back then. So when I was doing it in 20,000, so now Red Hat, you can run commercial stuff. We were just running a little stuff. So that's one reason I want to do my man Larry's. Like I said, that Oracle money been good to me. Like I said, that was my first bag, my first 6 figures, man, when I was making that probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And Oracle's still used today and among of the big vendors. Let's see. Helmet Cloud is crazy, lots but simple as Rain 11. Lots you can tell. Yeah, that's the weird thing, and I brought that up is when I went to the cloud because I'm old, there wasn't very few things in there that I haven't done, right? So when I spun up, and I've done it online, I spun up Amazon Linux, which is a fork of Red Hat. Okay, I know Linux, right? I've done a load balancer, right? So I've done web development. So I've done load balancing. I've done databases. I've done web development. But now you're talking about, okay, I'm doing Ohio, but my load balancer is going to be spread over 2 different data centers that's 60 miles apart, right? I was doing load balancer inside the data center, right, between 2 different racks. Now, if that whole data center went down, I'm toast. But now, with Amazon, I could fell over to a whole different data center in the Midwest, right? So the same fell over, you just falling over, to a whole new data center, same technology. Put that budget on. The pricing controls is yours. Good. Yeah, I do. Yeah, in AWS, you can put on budgets, and I put budgets on, and if it goes over a certain dollar amount, once again, I'll get an email. And two, so I always check my they got cost control, so I always log in. And two, they got spot instances, meaning if I say Linux is a spot instance helmet, I'm using it. If for some reason they need that VM because they're running out of VMs in the Midwest, they'll take my VM and use it for somebody in production. The cool thing though, whatever the price is, I only pay 90% of it. Since I do most of my VMs at night for spot instances, I've never had one officially taken. So if you do spot instances, which means we got open VMs, they're not being used. If you want to use one, we give you 90% off on it, right? But if we need it, because if AI and ME start running a big data algorithm, we might need to take it and give it to AI and ME so it can fit his project. So on AWS, it's called Spot. So I run most of my stuff at Spot. So instead of costing $3 a day, it ends up being like 40 cents a day for a small VM on their stuff. That's true. Facts is always changing. Here, I'm gonna drop the link if anybody wants to come up. Have you ever left the service running cloud? I left a service running on it, JM. But like I said, I checked my. I had an Oracle. No, I had a database. I had a DynamoDB database running up for 3 days. It cost me $50, JM. I was like, oh, I gotta do better. My problem was I set my budget for $100 for the month. I need to set my budget per day. I should have set it up. Anything over $20, I got an email, Jim. So now, because shout out to Citizen Lou said he had a $10,000 bill or something crazy, JM. So I'm paranoid. Every day I log in, I check my costs. So every at least every other day, even if I know I didn't spend up that, JM, I'm checking. I'm checking. So now that's the only thing. I think I spun up some and it costs like $50 or $60 for 3 or 4 days. So I was pretty much done. So it ended up being less than $100 I was spending for the month, though. So now it did caught me for a couple of days. I forgot I had a database up and running. I got to set my budgets up for a daily check, so I won't get them big bills. But it wouldn't be a big bill. Can you dispute if you left them? Well, you can, JM, and I think that you can dispute it. Reach out to Citizen Lou, said he just didn't pay it, right? They're not gonna come and sue you. They're not gonna come and take, Usually what they do is at the end of the month, if you don't pay your bill right under their email, you can never do anything under their email. So now he just said he didn't pay him. I just think he just walked out on the bill. So like I said, it was under the $100. Mine wasn't crazy. It was a big bill for what I usually pay for, but I've heard people disputing it. Got to be careful with them runaway bills, man. Let's see what him. There's an auto shutdown option where they can send you email and the cost can be easily. Yeah, mine too is sometimes you just forget, Hellman. You're right. Like I said, they got this graph. I go check it every day. Yeah, I try to check my graph on my budgets, man. Make sure because I ain't trying to leave no $10,000 bill for me. It'd be different if I was making money using it. That's a whole different ball game, right? So, yeah, at least tomorrow's hump day. That's my cost graph. I try to stay on top of it, Helmet. So over here I a little bit. So yeah, most of my stuff $2-3. Like I said, then I got my budget set here, so it send me an email on the budget. This is my monthly budget. I got it set for 200. I better bring it down. So that's my budget right there in my Amazon. So every day when I come, usually I go to my cost explorer there. Where's my cost explorer? So it gives you a summary. My current monthly cost is 32 cents. I'm supposed to have $2.54. So I try to watch it. So I've been labbing like I used to. So I try to lab like at least every other day. Spin up create a VPC, spin up a 3-tier network, put about 2 or 3 instances spread across 2 data centers, hook it to a S3 bucket, which is just a file system. I'm gonna start hooking to a database. And start uploading files and practice and setting up my users, setting up roles, setting up groups. So because my cousin account got hacked and someone was creating. You gotta watch it. I got my MFA on there, JM. I got my MFA on there. Then I got some security questions on there. So yeah, I've actually been practicing my incident response if something happens weird, JM. I got my AWS resource I need to call to. It's not me. Shut that down ASAP. So got my budget on it, and once again, I come in and check my costs. Oh, you have to pay the company back that amount for a few they Miss Creative, you use computer power like electricity. So like at the end of the month, you get a bill. So if you don't pay your electric bill, they cut it off. You don't pay your EC2 bill, you cut it off. So they charge you kind of like electricity. So depending on the size of your company too, and if you're testing. The crazy thing is you usually come out a lot cheaper with it like this because most times when you run stuff, you run it for a certain amount of time. Even if you have a web server, a lot of times you only get hit hard as cutting type of day. So instead of having 3 servers when you're not in use, you might just have one. Or if you're using serverless, you might not have any. When somebody tries to hit it, it'll spin up the server for you. So definitely ends up being cheaper a lot of times. For a small company that having big requirements, would be cheaper to just buy the hardware and pay them monthly. Well, yes and no, Jam. It's cheaper, but the problem is when you do that now, you gotta have an essay for Red Hat, right? When I spin up an EC2 with Red Hat and I spin up their server, AWS manages all of that, right? So the only thing I have to worry about is Java code. Now, if I spin up Red Hat and now I gotta get a router, I gotta carve up the disk, I gotta install the software. I hit a button jam and Amazon handles all that for me. So depending on what you're doing, a lot of times too, I think if you do uh they call them a small, you can run it and still probably come out cheaper. Because I was running a small internet with a small database, and I think I was coming out with $30 or $40 a month. But two is I don't have to worry about patching. I don't have to about feeding and carrying it, JM. That's part of the price. No, you cool, Miss Creative. So yeah, so JM, what is serverless exactly? That's an excellent question, Wayne. Serverless is a bad verb for what it is. Serverless basically means you don't control it. So when I start a web service, Elastic Beanstalk to put my Java on it, serverless means when I upload my Java code, Amazon's going to spin up the server, carve it up, put all the stuff I need on it, put all everything. So they handle the serverless, so I don't have to worry about it. I just have to worry about my Java code. So that's what serverless is. So Aurora database, when I spin that up to put data in it, I don't have to worry about the Red Hat, the Unix, installing it, patching it. Amazon's gonna do all that. So that's why it's serverless. Now, when I connect to it and do some work for it, right? I'm in charge of the tables and the database, but they're gonna handle all the server stuff for them. So that's the reason they call it serverless, Wayne. Let me know if that makes sense. So I don't do the management of the server. Amazon does that, right? So I just handle my code or the data in the database, right? So if you're a company, you don't want to worry about servers. You want to worry about, if you're Nike, you want to worry about shoes, not databases, right? If you're a certain company, unless you're a technology company, you really don't want to worry about technology, right? You want to worry about what advantages does code and programs give your company. You just don't want to worry about the underlying technology itself. Oh, facts. That's now you facts. So you have, like anything, JM, you got to be knowledgeable on them. So that's kind of one reason I'm getting my AWS certifications so I can become familiar with those techniques and the right architecture used for the right problems, right? They got like you said, NoSQL, SQL document database for the back end. Am I going to do a microservice, web service, or workflow for programmers, Jam? There's just so many different architectures. So that's one reason I kind of want to get my AWS certifications, even from a security perspective, so I can get a handle, because Amazon has a crazy amount of services and they're always adding. So, do you take care of security for the serverless? Yeah, because well, it's called a shared responsibility, Wayne. And there's actually, I'll Google that real quick. It's called shared responsibility. They have a piece and you have a piece, right? So I talk to this with customers all the time. So let me get a quick image of it. There it is. Boom. I usually got a ton of slides with this. So at the top, it's called shared responsibility. Me as the customer, I have that in I guess I would call it blue. AWS has what is in orange. And depending on what services you had, it can kind of move around. So at the top is the customers. So I got my data platform, identity management, right? That's security. I'm setting up the users. Operating system, network, firewall configuration, right? They actually handle the hardware. I can figure out my network traffic, what can see to what top. In AWS, like we have regions, availability zones, which is data center. Edge centers is they have data centers within inside certain cities if you're big enough. Global infrastructure software. So it's a shared responsibility, Wayne. So as far as serverless, they will handle most of that will be in the orange, and I will handle most of that at the top. The customer data, identity access manager, setting it up, what applications go on there, right? And the configuration of the network, right? Just the network traffic, they do it. So it's a shared responsibility between you and AWS. So but you're right, JM. Gotta be careful in them services, man. And sometimes you got services calling other services that you're not aware of that's being called. So I am super paranoid about making sure I'm calling stuff and double checking. I was doing a video about AWS config, which is their compliance, and you could do compliance for DoD, but it was like 1,000 checks. So I'm like, okay, am I paying for each individual check, or is it if something gets fired because it's not being set correctly, JM? So you're correct. I'm doing some study on that before I use that service. So you definitely got to be careful with those. And yeah, Wayne, and two is probably 5 years ago, I would say you would be more secure on prem with you controlling everything, but with the complexity of the web and the complexity of software and the volume software people used to go. AWS has 1,000 security people and they're good at. They've been doing government DoD work on these a lot of these data centers, right? They call government data centers that only used by government clients, but they take all that technology they learn and put it in the commercial data center. So I just kind of switched over the last years. I think it's more secure in the cloud because they give you a lot of security in there, security by default, and a lot of guardrails so you don't do stupid stuff to help you. Right. You could do stuff like they call it S3 bucket that you can hook up to the internet. Uh back I think Bank One got hacked because their S3 wasn't set up right. Now AWS says let's open the internet. They make you hit four buttons before you open it up to the internet. They call it guardrails, so they really trying to help you. Um, so I think security in cloud is much better. How much is the highest bill in 1 month you ever seen in the cloud? About one of my clients, I was doing security on for the IRS, and one of the big tax vendors pays 100,000 a month. I'm not gonna name that vendor. So but they got everything you can get, and they had 400 VMs, and it was crazy, Jim. So 100 grand a month from a large tax vendor, but they had every security thing. The crazy thing, though, he said it was a lot cheaper than what they were spending with their own prem stuff. He said they got a lot more security with it, but once again, they're a huge vendor. Like I said, they had a crazy amount. I saw 400 VMs. I think he said they had 1,000 spun up when you took all their services and what they have for their corporation and what they have for their clients and their private clients. So I think he said he had 1,000 BMs any one time jam spinning up and coming down depending on the uses of it. So 100 racks is probably what I seen on the bill. We were actually just talking about it. But yeah, Wayne, that's what makes the cloud interesting too. Is I was talking about the sock puppet, which was called Pets.com in the 80s. She when she went live for Christmas, she bought $10 million worth of hardware. So over 2 or 3 years, her hardware became obsolete, and she owned what $10 million worth of hardware. So she said if she was around with Amazon, she said she probably would have paid a quarter of the price, and wouldn't have to spend all that money right on infrastructures and data centers back then, where you could just put your credit card and just start spinning up, right, and get charged. And two is the beauty of it is when you start buying computer resources out for 2 or 3 years, they give you 80% discount because that tells AWS how much resources they need for you. If they can plan for it, they give you like 70-80% discount. It's called EC2 Reserve and EC2 Saving Plan. So with those, you can save a crazy amount of money on top of what you spend. Oh yeah. If you do one, especially if you're Amazon, that's the reason they started. They spun up during Christmas. Then after Christmas, they had all this extra hardware, and one of their VP said, "I think we should rent it out." Everybody thought that was the craziest thing to happen. So they actually got a 12 or 13 year head start with that. With people spinning it out. I don't know. I might do that. She was just talking about it on a. Man, hell, I listened to that probably 5 or 6 years ago. She was talking about it. I think at a TED talk. I'm sure she got a lot of venture capital. I'm sure most of that was venture capital. Because because I think she was working. Because people forget Amazon lost money Amazon lost money for a decade before they started making money. Because a lot of times when you ramp up, you expect to lose money. So you're actually living on, like you said, VC and then when you go public, you can live on that stock money for a long time. So Amazon didn't make money for 10 years. They were living on VC money for a decade. Mm. See, check my back end. But no, that's I mean I used to call it future. Cloud is now, right? I think the cloud's getting shaken out. I think people figuring their what clouds work best for them. I think Amazon's competing with a lot of people, so a lot of people switching clouds. So yeah, Facebook was the same way. You correct. Facebook, yeah. They didn't make money for a long time. Yeah, pretty much they kind of with yeah. The reason I pause jam, you could do that. What happens is Amazon has edge computing, which means you could be coming back to the United States, but actually you have a small data center with your web server and your S3 that's in a city in Japan. You actually hook to that. Then what happens is Amazon bought dark fiber around the world. So once you get to their data center, which could be in your city, it's called Edge. It's going to be a lot smaller. It's not going to have reason. You're going to run on their backbone to the United States, and that stuff is in milliseconds, right? So it's called edge computing. So you don't have to come all the way back to the United States. You could come back to, like you said, your edge computing. They're going to charge you more, but then you can run on Amazon. It's called, I did a video on that. It's called wide area networking. And so when you get to their edge computing, which is over the internet, the rest of that stuff you're on their internal backbone around the globe. So they got cable ran underneath the sea. So you running it in milliseconds. So that's how you would do. You would probably do edge computing. and most major cities. So you would hit once again. They got them in Japan, China, Brazil. I'm supposed to have some dudes do something in Africa. They actually got an edge center in Africa. So you hit the edge center in Africa, then you run it on Amazon's backbone. So it'll be super quick. So you wouldn't notice the lag. So that's kind of it. So once again, you're not coming all the way back to the United States. You probably would hit the edge, and I don't know if they got it in China, but they got some in Asia. So you would hit those. Let me bring those up while we talking. Hit those. So yeah, so you hit those edges. Let me say JM. Let me cut that off. So here, let me make this bigger. So these are the North American data centers. There. So they got North Carolina, Oregon, North Carolina. This the Midwest is us, Ohio. So there, that's the government. Only government can get in that Gov Cloud and US East West. Then you got South America. They got one. Europe, they got a few. Middle East, they got a few. UAE, Bahrain, Israel, of course. Africa, they had one at the bottom. In Africa, Cape Town, they had one. I thought they would have a few more. Well, I guess it's a poor region, though. Why I said that. Asia Pacific, they got a few. Beijing, okay, so yep. In Australia, so that's region. Then local zones is edge computing. Run latency sensitive closer to the end user. Location. So these are, see how many more you got, but they're much smaller, JM. So these are all of, so instead of going back to the big data centers, I would hit those local zones, right? Those are smaller data centers. Once you connect there, right, then I'm on AWS's backbone. See, I got a few more in there and a few more. So local area. So that's what you would do to keep your speed up. So with the will in the future, will there be other cloud companies based in other countries and offer cheaper cloud service to U.S. customers because wages and maintenance are cheaper? They're already doing that. Amazon, IBM, and Oracle, they, like you said, Oracle, 65% of those people are overseas. So all these data centers are ran by foreign people. Even though these data centers are in the United States, most of those are they call it follow the sun. So when you call data centers, most of the time you get foreign people because these people got home. So these people are actually handling maintenance to those data centers. The only time you have to actually be on site if you need to physically reboot something and restart it. And for them, if you're gonna reboot something, they just shut down that particular VM and just spin up another VM, right? They got football fields of VM, so I think they're already doing that now. So most of your support staff is overseas, and they're managing those data centers in the United States because, like you said, it's cheaper, right? So I think that's already happening now. Let's see. But you have to pay more for redundant in case of data center in your US region. Yeah, but it's so much cheaper for the redundancy. When you do federal work, you got to have redundancy anyway by compliance, JM. So that's normal. It's much cheaper to do it in the cloud. And two is I can do it's called a pilot light. I could do my big data center on the East Coast where most of my customers are. I can go on the West Coast. Over here, I could have 20 VMs, whatever, three S3s, a big data. Over here on my pilot light, I have a web server once. So when this goes down, when they start hitting it, right, I could spin up, it's called a security group, and it'll spin up whatever it needs to do that traffic and spin them up. But over in my pilot light, I just have one until it's failing. I get traffic. It's called an auto scaling group. My auto scaling group will be one until I get some traffic over there. So you can make it super cheap, JM, to have redundancy. So it's called a pilot light. So I have one of each thing, super small. So once it start hitting, then I can start spinning up bigger and bigger stuff for the needed traffic. But just to have it available, in the old days, we used to have to duplicate what we had. If I had 40 servers over there in my redundancy, I might have 20, but still that's a lot that I would have to pay for. Now I won't spin them up unless I need them. The only reason I need one small one up running is because when I hit it, I don't want to have any latency while I spin it up. So once you hit that one little web server and app server, while traffic comes over, that gives me time to spin everything up. It's called Rpo and Rto. How much data can you lose is point in time, and TO is how much time it's going to take you to spin it up, right? So sometimes if you were a big customer and you spend a lot of money, you want it to come up in less than a second, right? So that means I got to have some stuff. They call it warm or hot duplicate. If I could be semi-cold, I just have one small each one till I start getting traffic. Then I'll spin it up, Jam. But now it's much cheaper to spin it up in the cloud. And for federal compliance, most of that stuff, you got to have a DR site anyway. You got to have a disaster recovery site and plan, and you got to exercise it every year. Oh, yeah, most definitely. It's a good practice to spin those up every now and then. Just, oh, yeah, we do it. What we usually do is when we do a new release of software, what we usually do is we usually have a maintenance window where we tell the client or whatever is using that we're going to take it down on Sunday from 9 to midnight. So when we take it down, while we bringing it back up, we doing software updates, A and B. You can actually keep it out online, but it's better. So what we do when we spin it up to test it, we spin it up in the DR to test everything, make sure everything's right. Then we bring it back to normal. Then we spin it up into production. So every release, not every release, I probably say once every quarter. If we do a release or a small maintenance, we'll spin it up in the DR site just to make sure it works. The part of spinning that up, we got test accounts, so we can spin up 100 test users over there, JM, to make sure it auto scales and test everything. Then two is as part of the security engineer and the operations engineer, we compare stuff over there to make sure, okay, we using the right EC2, we got the right size, we got the right code, right? So we always comparing it to do that. But per NIST 800-53, most people know I do federal, we got to test it once a year. So when we try to do a release once a quarter, JM, we just roll it out. I will. It's so bright, JM. I'm still working on it. And to be honest, I got a lot of stuff. I unplugged a few things, but I'll start using the PBO sign. It's behind me. I'll let you see it. I ain't cut it on, but there it is. Shout out to the PBO side. Big client of mine bought that. I was with them for 10 years. So they bought me a sign and a Yeti mic. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm going to start getting a PBO sign on me. I got to get it balanced. I got to get my new setup. I got to get a new camera and give me an intro, JM. That's what I'm giving myself for Christmas. But from like my man was saying, from the edge locations, that's how you could do it. If I'm over here, I could be hitting Africa. Then when I hit Africa, right, it's coming back to my stuff in the United States, but it's coming on AWS backbone. It's called Accelerator. So they have their stuff that they worked out deals with Verizon and all those. So they actually run on their cable and their network, even the wireless part. So they can get milliseconds, micro milliseconds, because they want to get into autonomous driving cars. So they want to get in that 5G. So they want that stuff to be in millionths of a second, right? So that's what they set up those edge. They call them local edge locations. You can see them all over the United States. So shout out to Engineering Cannabis. I might do a local 5G and play around and get with him and see if we could do some stuff. But yeah, but if you Google AWS local zones and we were looking at the big data centers, then they actually have 5G where you actually have your data next to Verizon's inside their data center, right? So you can get instantaneous things with your mobile app. So your mobile app will go to Verizon's data center, hit your AWS cage in AWS, then goes back to AWS big data center. Oh, most definitely. All the big Facebook, all the big boys. Facebook has a ton of dark fiber. Microsoft's got a ton of dark fiber. Because what happens is a lot of people were trying to do this stuff in the 2000s, and computers weren't quick enough, and the network quick enough. So they were running all that stuff like it was going to be autonomous driving back there. So all the big guys got dark fiber. Um, Amazon, Azure. I'm sure Google's got a ton of dark fiber because they were in that robotics for a minute. So all the big guys have them. No data center. No, I don't think we that cool, JM. I didn't see one in Russia. Let's see. Let me go back to the big dog. I don't think we had any in Russia. See, that's the global. No, I don't see any in Russia, man. All this up here pretty dark. So let's see. Asian Pacific. Nah. Asian Pacific looking a little thin. I'm surprised in Africa we only got one. Come on. I think we had a few local though. In Africa, we looking a little thin, man. You gotta remember most of that. Whew. So nah, we heard JM. We heard. We heard. So now we heard on our data centers. And we only got one. We ain't even got no yellow coming soon. But no, that's it. And I did if you Google mine, I did a WLAN where I actually went through and talked about data centers, local data centers. Wavelength is when you actually have your data center, your your AWS is actually in Verizon's data center, so you can get phenomenal speed into the wavelength. Building next generation applications without the learning curve, deploy applications once and scale them with the wavelength in 5G. So that shows you the AWS region, the wavelength, deploy portions of your application that requires ultra low latency in the wavelength zone, and then seamlessly connect back to the rest of the application, the full range of cloud services. So there's your mobile app. Shout out to the Citizen Lou. He connects that to wavelength, right, which is the 5G, which is inside Verizon's data center. Then you go back to your Amazon big data center, right? Because you need sub-millisecond response time for machine learning, building stuff, right? Applications. They got a video platform. Sportable brings real time and a couple of things. So I thought that was interesting when I started digging into. I'm like, man, you talking about sub-millisecond stuff, right? So that's the cool thing to feature. There it is, wavelength infrastructure optimized for mobile edge computing. Wavelengths are AWS infrastructure deployed in AWS computing storage within the communication service provider's 5G network, aka Verizon and all those. You are in their data center. So you need a good part. Good point, Wayne. That's a good point. That's a good point. It's because the original have needs to cloud. I think Wayne's got. I think it's data center. I think too. You're right. I don't think they. I think they have a need for it. I don't think they can afford what they're. What I don't think they can afford the rates for it. Right? Because you got to think. Companies play for the majority of AWS. Very large companies, right? They spin up stuff for mom and pops, but the majority of their stuff is big companies, right? And two is startups. No, they trying to AWS is trying to go green, so they're doing stuff. If you look in Cali, they burn a lot of water in their data center, JM. So they're trying to figure out how to balance that. They burn a lot of water. I think they suck up water out of a lot of those dams to run through their data center to cool a lot of the machines off. We tried to do a data center years ago at this one small company. I never realized this. There's only so much power that comes into a building. We was actually going to have to get with our local power company to run some more step down power into our data center. We were small. We ran like a mall with some data strips. So we had maybe, and it wasn't very big, but when you run about 40 racks and you got like 20 small SUs in those racks, jam, that's a lot of power, man. I was surprised. Number one, we had to call the city to get more power ran and how hot it was in there. Even with heating, just how much heat that stuff generates. Um, I think IBM, somebody tries to, they put their data center and dropped it in the ocean to see if they can run it cool. And Amazon, if you Google it, no, I'm sorry. Facebook tried to open up a data center in Alaska, Antarctic to let the cold air run through their computers and cool it. So people are trying different stuff. So, um, right, way more because you need to step up and step. True, low balance. Yeah, that's stepping up and stepping down. I think they're working on it. But now you're right because you need a consistent and those data centers are large as 3 football fields, some of them, depending on where they're at. So it's a crazy amount of computer power. So they got the fields right where they're delivering packages. Some of that's data center where they got computers in it too. It's the size of a football field. You just got racks and racks and racks and racks of computer. So well, that's it. I think I'm gonna get ready for hump day. I'm glad y'all joined me. Glad y'all support me. I'm gonna do some cybersecurity streets are bad. I'm gonna come out with some merch pretty soon. Shout out to the merch. Whoever can solve the heat. Oh, facts, facts. The problem is yeah, that's cold fusion or somehow. I don't even know what that is, man. Like you said, maybe if we can get power. I've been looking at this things are talking about different levels of civilization. I guess there's 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 6. I think right now we're 0.75. 2 means we can actually take power from the sun to bring that power to the earth to actually use it for clean energy. That's civilization 2. So I've been reading this weird series, Helmet. I might talk about it. It was kind of weird. So yeah, that power is kind of different. Facts. That's nuclear, right? You see, let's get. I'm gonna get that shirt. I'm gonna need your support, Helmet, when I come out with that. When I come out with that shirt, you see it. Let's get it. So yeah, we got to get the merch out in 2023. So now, so now we're gonna get a little merch. But my old ass about to go to bed, man. I gotta be up. I think I got an 8 o'clock meeting in the morning. Shout out to the person that did that. I'm not happy with him. So now we're gonna get him out. But we'll talk about some of those things. Like, and I got some old check out my playlist. I did a WLAN talking about the different data centers. There's 4 actually different types. The data center, the edge, the wavelength. Then there was actually one local where it was actually the clock was inside the city. So, and 2 is they have one where they can actually put it in your outpost, where they can actually put it in your data center, but it's actually AWS's hardware in their cage. It was called Outpost. So they put their infrastructure, your data center, hook it back to high speed network, right? So then you using all their stuff at lightning speed to connect to their data center, and you just handle all that. So they're making it happen. Let's see real quick, JM. Think think they make code and how owls wider help? Oh yeah, they do that. That's traditional. I appreciate. I'll buy two for sure. I appreciate. It. Yeah, I'm sure that's just that's classic, JM. So I'm sure they have hot and cold. I appreciate it, one. You check them out. I might do something on that now. I'll probably put that in mind. I'm trying to get JM's burp sweep. Yeah, I never thought about cooling. Like I said, on time I thought about it. As a programmer, I just never thought about it till, like I said, I was working for this company. We spin up our own data center. I'm like, you got all this space for where the rest of the racks? It goes, dude, we don't have enough power to run the rest of the racks. You know how much power we need? Like my man said, we need to step down and come in with so we can hook extra power to it. Which is not a big deal. You just gotta pay the city to do it and have them do it, right? They're gonna charge you for it, they'll do it. But I just assumed that hell, we run a couple of stitching cords on the ground, we'd be all right. That's incorrect. So now, but now you're right. I just never think about power. I just take all that for granted. But when you start scaling the size of a football field and the heat that generates, right, that's a whole different ball game. Once again, Professor Black Ops, cybersecurity for the people. Come check me out Sunday at 3. I think we're going to be doing AWS Oracle. I'm going to spin up a quick little instance, connect to it, set some security up to it, probably stay on AWS's backbone to get to it. You can actually go to the internet and get to it or stay on AWS's backbone. Per federal law, they want you to stay on AWS's backbone. The Fed life, so we got to do a little more compliance. That's how I make my living. Shout out to the living. So I'm out. Everybody have a great week. Let's get it. Let's get the bag. Shout out to Black Heights, Tech G, Women in Linux. Keep it techy. There's a lot of people out there doing good work. I'm sure I'll see y'all in these cybersecurity streets. Happy hump day.